Nobody wanted him. And honestly, looking at him, you could understand why. His name was Deacon, a 6-year-old Angus Gelvie cross that looked like God had started building a bull, gotten distracted halfway through, and finished the job in a hurry. His front end was too narrow for his back end. His left horn grew straight up while his right horn curved forward like it was trying to see around a corner. He had a patch of white hair on his forehead, shaped roughly like the state of Arkansas, which would have been charming if he'd been from Arkansas, but he was from a feedlot outside of Cookeville, Tennessee, where nobody found it charming at all. He was also the ugliest bull in Cumberland County, possibly in the state. His eyes were set too wide apart, giving him a permanent expression of surprise, like he'd just walked into a room and forgotten why he was there. His gait was uneven, not a limp, just an awkward rhythm, like a man walking in boots that don't match. 3 ranches had owned Deacon before he turned 4. Each one kept him long enough to realize his conformation was never going to win a show. His calves came out looking like him instead of their mothers, and his presence in a pasture lowered the visual standards of the entire operation. The third owner, a man named Harley Grimes, summarized it best at the Cookeville livestock auction when he consigned Deacon for the 4th time. He ain't mean, he ain't sick, he ain't got a single thing wrong with him that you can point to and say that's the problem. He's just wrong. All over. A little bit wrong everywhere. And you can't fix a little bit wrong everywhere. Deacon sold for $410, the lowest price for a breeding-age bull at the Cookeville sale in 3 years. The buyer was a livestock dealer named Stu Mackey, who bought cheap bulls for resale to small operations that couldn't afford better. Stu put Deacon in a holding pen with 2 other budget bulls and tried to move him for 6 weeks. No takers. Even the small-time operators who came to Stu's lot looking for affordable genetics took one look at Deacon and said, "I'm cheap, but I'm not that cheap." Deacon stood in Stu's holding pen through the winter, eating hay, drinking water, watching other bulls come and go. He had the patient, slightly confused expression of a man sitting in a waiting room who suspects his name will never be called. By March, Stu was losing money on feed. He called the only person he knew who might take a free bull. Willa Trent was 68 years old and ran a 40-acre hobby farm outside of Cookeville, Tennessee, with the organizational skills of a retired school principal, which is exactly what she was. She'd taught 4th grade in Putnam County for 31 years before retiring and buying the property with her pension and the life insurance from her husband, Boyd, who died of a stroke the same year she retired. Willa had 12 cows. Not fancy cows. A mixed assortment of Angus crosses, 1 Hereford, and a brindle of uncertain heritage that Willa called Mystery because nobody could identify her breed and she wasn't talking. The cows were pets as much as livestock. Willa named them all, talked to them, knew their personalities the way she'd known her 4th graders, who was bossy, who was shy, who was the troublemaker, who needed extra attention. What Willa did not have was a bull. Her last one had died in January. Old age. She'd been borrowing a neighbor's bull for breeding season, but the neighbor had sold his operation and moved to Florida. Willa needed a bull. She did not have bull money. So when Stu Mackey called and offered her a free Angus Gelvie cross, Willa said yes before he finished the sentence. Then she saw him. Stu backed the trailer into Willa's loading chute on a Tuesday afternoon in early April. Willa stood at the gate with her hands on her hips and watched Deacon walk down the ramp. He came off that trailer like a man arriving at a party where he didn't know anyone. Slow. Cautious. His mismatched horns caught the afternoon light. His 2 wide eyes scanned the property with that permanent expression of mild alarm. The white patch on his forehead glowed like a headlight. Willa looked at Stu. Stu looked at his boots. He's... Willa searched for a word. "Yeah," Stu said. "He is. Does he work?" "He's sound. Fertile. Dr. Combs in Cookeville did a breeding soundness exam last fall. He passed. He just doesn't look like he passed. At anything. Ever." Willa looked at Deacon again. Deacon looked at Willa. His right horn cast a shadow across his face at an angle that made him look like he was winking. "All right," Willa said. "He stays. But if my cows laugh at him, I'm calling you." Stu left faster than a man paying a parking ticket. Willa put Deacon in the small paddock next to the main pasture so he could see the cows through the fence before being introduced. Standard practice. Let the animals get used to each other's presence before mixing. Reduce stress. Avoid confrontation. What happened next was not standard practice. Deacon saw the cows, and something in him changed. Not slowly, not gradually. Like a light switch. 1 second he was the same droopy, confused, slightly apologetic animal that had been standing in holding pens for 6 months. The next second, he was something else entirely. His head came up. His ears went forward. His chest expanded. He took a breath so deep that Willa later swore she heard his ribs creak. And then he made a sound. Not a bellow, not a roar. Something between a purr and a foghorn. A deep, rolling, vibrating hum that came from somewhere in his chest that hadn't been accessed in 6 years of rejection. It was the sound of a bull who had just discovered that the world contained something worth caring about. The cows looked up from grazing. Deacon pressed against the fence. Not aggressively, not charging, just leaning. His whole body oriented toward those 12 cows like a compass needle finding north. His tail started swishing. His eyes, those 2 wide, permanently surprised eyes, softened into something that Willa could only describe as adoration. "Oh my Lord," Willa said. "He's in love." She called her neighbor, June Hofstede, who'd raised cattle for 40 years, to come observe. June stood at the fence for 5 minutes watching Deacon press against the rails and hum at the cows. Then she started laughing. Not politely. The kind of laughter that bends you at the waist and makes your eyes water. "Willa, that is the most pathetic and most sincere thing I have ever seen a bull do. He looks like a teenage boy at his first dance. He hasn't stopped since I put him in there. 3 hours. June wiped her eyes. "Well, he knows what he wants. You gotta give him that." Willa let Deacon into the main pasture the next morning. The introduction was not what the textbooks describe. Typically, a new bull enters a herd and establishes dominance. There's posturing, maybe some pushing, a display of authority to establish his position at the top of the hierarchy. Deacon walked into the pasture and went straight to the nearest cow, a calm old Angus named Francine, and sniffed her face, gently, like he was introducing himself at a church social. Then he moved to the next cow, and the next, sniffing each one, spending time, not rushing, not pushing, not mounting, just meeting them. He spent the entire first day doing this, walking from cow to cow, sniffing, standing next to each one for a few minutes, occasionally making that deep humming sound. By evening, he'd personally introduced himself to all 12. Willa watched the whole thing from her porch with a glass of sweet tea and a growing sense of disbelief. June came over for dinner that night. How'd the introduction go? He met them, individually, one at a time, like he was running for office. June nearly choked on her cornbread. Over the following weeks, Deacon did something that none of his previous 3 owners had bothered to notice, because none of them had given him a herd of his own. He courted. Not the brutal, mechanical breeding behavior that commercial operations rely on. Deacon courted. He'd follow a cow when she was in heat, but he wouldn't rush. He'd walk beside her, stand near her, make the humming sound, wait until she was ready. Then, gentle, quick, respectful. And afterward, he'd stand with her for hours, grazing side by side. Willa had never seen anything like it. She'd been around cattle her whole life, married to a man who ran 50 head. Bulls were aggressive breeders, pushy, dominant. It was functional, but it wasn't pretty. Deacon was pretty. In his own ugly, lopsided, Arkansas-shaped way, Deacon was the most attentive bull she'd ever seen. And the cows responded. Within a month, the herd's behavior had shifted in ways Willa didn't fully understand until Dr. Patricia Combs came out for routine pregnancy checks in July. 11 of 12 cows were pregnant. Willa stared at the vet. 11 out of 12? Dr. Combs nodded. That's a 92% conception rate on first service. For reference, the national average for natural service bulls is around 60 to 65%. Your ugly free bull just outperformed 90% of the breeding bulls in the state. How? Dr. Combs looked at Deacon, who was standing near the fence humming at Mystery, the one cow who hadn't settled yet. I have a theory. Most bulls are bred for aggression and dominance. They breed by force and frequency. They cover as many cows as possible as fast as possible. It works, but it's stressful for the cows. Stress reduces conception rates. She gestured at Deacon. Your bull doesn't stress them. He waits. He courts. The cows are relaxed when they breed, which means higher conception rates, better implantation, healthier pregnancies. He's not a better bull genetically. He's a better bull behaviorally. Willa looked at Deacon. He'd moved on to grooming Francine, licking the old cow's neck with the tenderness of a man brushing his wife's hair. So he's ugly, but he's got game, Willa said. Dr. Combs smiled. He's got something. I don't think there's a clinical term for it, but if there were, it would probably be emotional intelligence. The calves arrived the following spring, and they were surprising, not beautiful. None of them would win a confirmation class. They had Deacon slightly off proportions and his tendency toward mismatched features. But they were healthy, strong, fast-growing, and they had something else that Willa noticed immediately: temperament. Deacon's calves were the calmest young cattle Willa had ever handled. They didn't spook at the gate, didn't panic in the chute, didn't challenge fences or fight each other at the hay ring. They were agreeable, easy. The kind of cattle that make a small operator's life simple instead of complicated. June noticed it too. Those calves act like they were raised by a golden retriever, not a bull. Dr. Combs weighed and measured them at the 60-day check. Growth rates were above average. Health was excellent. Not a single case of scours or respiratory illness in the entire calf crop. Willa, she said, reviewing the data, your ugly bull just produced the healthiest, easiest handling calf crop I've seen in Putnam County this year. If he looked like a show bull, you could sell his calves for 3 times what you paid for him, which was nothing. Willa scratched Deacon's forehead, right on the Arkansas-shaped patch. He closed his eyes and hummed. I didn't pay nothing for him, she corrected. I paid attention. That's more than anyone else ever did. Word got around Cookeville the way word gets around small Tennessee towns. Slowly at first, then all at once. The retired school principal with the ugly free bull that outbred every expensive herd sire in the county. People started driving by Willa's farm to look at Deacon over the fence. Some laughed, some shook their heads. A few asked if they could bring a cow or 2 over for breeding. Willa said yes to 3 of them, charged $100 per cow. Every cow settled on first service. Harley Grimes, the man who'd sold Deacon at auction for $410, heard about it at the feed store. He drove to Willa's farm, stood at the fence, and watched Deacon groom a cow while humming. That's the same bull? That's the same bull. He's different. No, Willa said. He's exactly the same. You just never gave him anyone to be himself with. You kept putting him in pens alone, judging him by what he looked like, and shipping him off when he didn't match the picture in your head. He didn't need to change. He needed cows. Harley stood there for a while. Then he said something that surprised Willa. I'm sorry. Willa looked at him. Don't tell me. Tell him. Harley looked at Deacon. The bull looked back with those 2 wide eyes and his permanent expression of gentle confusion, like a man who'd been lost for a long time and still couldn't quite believe he'd been found. Harley left without saying anything else. Deacon is 8 now. He's still ugly. His horns still don't match. His gait is still uneven. The Arkansas patch on his forehead has gotten slightly bigger, which Willa says means he's growing into his looks. He has 23 cows now. Willa expanded the herd with the breeding fees and calf sales that Deacon's reputation generated. Every cow settles. Every calf is healthy. Every spring, the pasture fills with calves that look a little odd and behave like angels. Dr. Combs presented Deacon's breeding data at a regional cattlemen's meeting last fall. The room full of ranchers who'd spent their careers selecting bulls based on EPDs, frame scores, and phenotype sat quietly, while a veterinarian explained how a $400 reject with the confirmation of a mixed bag of spare parts had outperformed their $5,000 herd sires. The silence afterward was the kind that means people are rethinking things. Willa didn't attend the meeting. She was at home, on the porch, sweet tea, watching Deacon in the pasture, standing next to Francine, who was old and slow now, grooming her neck with that deep hum vibrating across the Tennessee evening. June was there too, in the other porch chair. "You know what I love about that bull?" June said. "What?" "He never tried to be anything he wasn't. Every ranch he went to, they wanted him to be a different bull, a show bull, a breeding machine, a catalog picture, and he just kept being Deacon. Ugly, sweet, strange Deacon. And the second somebody stopped trying to make him into something else and just let him be what he was, he turned out to be exactly what everybody needed." Willa sipped her tea. Took a while to respond. "That's not just a bull thing, June. No, it's not." The sun went down over Putnam County. The cows drifted toward the barn. Deacon walked with them. Not behind, not in front, but among them. Part of the group. Not dominating. Just belonging. An ugly bull that nobody wanted. A retired school principal who didn't care about pretty. And 12 cows who never laughed at him once. Sometimes, the thing that everybody passes over is the thing that was meant for you. You just have to stop looking at the picture in your head and start looking at what's actually standing in front of you. Deacon would agree, but he's busy right now. He's got ladies to attend to.